Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Power Metal Resources webinar. Thank you very much for joining us today. We've got quite a large audience, actually, which is good to see. When you win in the junior resource investing space, people call you lucky. When you lose, they call you foolish. There were some foolish people in late 2015 buying Greatland Gold at 0.05 pence a share. And there were some very lucky people selling it in January, February 2021 at 38 pence a share. The examples are endless. Goldstone Resources back in 2008-9, you could buy for much less than half a pence a share, and you could sell it 2 or 3 years later at over 10 pence a share. Condor Gold, you could buy it much less than 0.5 pence a share and sell it a couple of years later for well over 10 pence a share. One pattern that always seems to emerge is that the time of maximum fear, when, bless them, the brokers struggle to summon up the courage to get out there and do business. They're frightened of the investors who are concerned about their portfolios and are not willing to invest. When the market looks weak, when the commodities seem to hop up and down and dash your dreams, those are the times when, from a personal investment perspective, you can deliver outsized returns. We're trying to do that for you as a shareholder in Power Metal Resources. We're not trying to do it once or twice or 3 times. We're trying to do it 10 or 12 times with different elements to our business. So tonight we have for you a shortened presentation to take you through the areas of our business. Don't worry, for those that have seen it before, for those that have followed the story, I'm grateful you're still here following it with us today. But we're going to tell you something different today. We're going to tell you how we think we are building the value in our business. Because like any commercial business, you need to see growth. No point staying small. That small is the stuff of nightmares. If you're trying to make big returns, you have to grow. You need to move to profitability and the ability to get that profit out via cash so that the shareholders can benefit. And you need to see shareholder value. With that growth and that move to profitability, building the inherent value of your business. And the problem is that the market does not always reflect the value that you've built at any point in time. I used to study efficient markets hypothesis at university, and nothing could be further from the truth. The market is hopelessly inefficient, and praise be it is, because if it was perfectly efficient, the opportunity for major profit would not be there. So Power Metal, growth, profitability, shareholder value, the 3 underlying principles that we run this business today. There we go. I struggled on the off. Here's the disclaimer. In simple terms, please don't believe me or anybody else that tells you about Power Metal Resources. Everyone is talking their book. Read, review, do some research, ask us questions. The purpose today, in about 10 minutes time, is for you to open up and ask any questions you like about our business. We hopefully can answer almost all of them, and we'll certainly try. Our business has been built over 4 years. Back in 2019, it started out with 3 interests in the Ivory Coast, the DRC and Cameroon. We have moved away from that now, and we're focused across 3 continents, targeting 10 metals with a multiple project array. We're spinning some of those interests out into their own vehicles, listing mainly in London, but not entirely, I imagine, going forward. And we're disposing of certain interests. Our recent disposal of our Hemlo Schreiber interest into First Class Metals is now part of their vehicle listed on the standard segment of the main market in London. And we're looking for all sorts of ways to crystallize value from our portfolio of interests alongside undertaking our internal exploration on retained projects. It's a big business. It's widely spread around the world. It is literally 24/7. Within our projects, we have a number of headliners at the moment, and everyone will know about Molopo Farms Complex in Botswana. Our announcement today provided the latest update, giving you the facts and figures on the first 2 drill holes. First hole down to 650 meters. Second hole down to 300 meters. We're completing downhole geophysics in the first hole right now. And then we're moving the drill rig very shortly over to T114 target, which is the superconductor. The program is going extremely well. We're very pleased with progress. We are obviously very careful about what we say in the public domain. And there will be a further update announcement out, as we said in the RNS today, giving you a full breakdown of our progress and what we are doing at the moment, and also what we've seen thus far. Now, in terms of value, Molopo came in 2019. And back then, the proposition had been running for quite a few decades, really, that the Molopo Farms Complex project may host quite substantial nickel copper PGM deposits. We paid money in to secure our seat at the table. And our first step of building value was to secure that initial interest. That paid for airborne EM work and some geophysics. And our contribution towards the $500,000 earning to a 40% project stake back in 1920 and 21 gave us, with that initial drilling, a bigger seat at the table. That initial drilling told us an awful lot and enabled us to move forward to the next stage of the value build. And that value build has had two angles to it. One, we secured the deal with the Kalahari key shareholders, or the majority of them, to acquire their stake in the company. We like what we saw. I'm reminded of Remington microscreen back in the day, where one of the users liked the product so much he bought the company. Well, we like Molopo Farms from the off, and we've been able to secure what is now a circa 88% interest in the holding company that holds that project outright. We're undertaking an extensive 2,600 meter drill program. Well, it might go on a little bit more. And we're undertaking ongoing geophysics to further our knowledge and understanding of for the drill targeting process. So all in all, the current 2022 program is adding considerable value. And of course, what we're targeting is a big value build, which is major discoveries across the Molopo Farms project. We're working very hard as a business to identify those district scale opportunities that can add significant value into the company. Molopo is a lead project in this regard. It gathers, and it has gathered over the years, quite a bit of interest from larger organizations, and we've alluded to that in various market news announcements. There is the potential for partnerships going forward on this project. The size is considerable at 1,700 square kilometers over 3 license areas. And our ultimate aim, because it has to be, of any organization such as ours, is to build Molopo Farms into a project capable of development to go into production. Back in 2016, as CEO of Metal Tiger, when we discovered alongside MOD Resources the T3 copper discovery, it was just open ground. And now that is a thriving operational center, going into production, employing lots of people, and giving great economic prosperity. That, for any organization such as ours, is the ultimate dream. Moving over to the Tati Greenstone Belt. Well, 6% up on the day, power metal. This morning we released an announcement showing that we had bonanza gold grades from the recent reverse circulation drilling. 47 grams a ton was the headline result. 3 holes we've had the assays from. We have another 6 holes still to come in. You can imagine we're looking forward to the receipt of those results. We started the value build by acquiring this project for quite a modest amount in 2021. We did work immediately on the project, as is our modus operandi, with sampling and mapping to delineate targets. And that work enabled us to undertake initial RC drilling at the project. And we found in that RC drilling on one of the 2 original licenses, 3 meters of gold near surface of 5 grams a ton, which was a great outcome. Of course, the market was having one of its phases. And we didn't, I think, get the reaction to that news that perhaps it deserved. But what it did tell us, that work, is that there was an even bigger target in and around the Cherished Hope gold mine, which lay in an area that was unpegged. And so we staked that ground, secured a third license area. And very recently, we've been drilling that area with RC drills, and the first results have been out today. So we're very excited. You're, I suppose, in the Goldilocks zone here in terms of high grade near surface gold. There is a processing plant nearby, very, very nearby, that is capable of processing anything that we find at this location, subject to commercial agreements between us and them, and also of course, the regulatory and environmental requirements that have to be satisfied as well. But it is building into a perfect opportunity. That value build will likely continue with an expansion of RC drilling. If you're finding grades as we have done thus far, why would you not? We're looking to assess what the overall gold mineralization is. Quite a large amount, we hope. And then, of course, there will be commercial partnerships that could be affected over the project and potential production. As I say, a Goldilocks scenario, a project that was brought in on the back of the work of our technical team in the business, homegrown to a certain extent, and we've certainly pushed this forward at pace. Athabasca uranium. The uranium sector is interesting. There is no boom like a uranium boom. If you're going to do it at all, you might as well do it the power metal way. We've secured quite a dramatic strategic footprint. The first stage of the value build, we're up to circa 843 square kilometers over 12 properties. We've been building a significant amount of data from historical records, but also initial exploration. And we now have property data rooms across all of our properties. One of them, Reitenbach, has entered a significant value build stage as a disposal into a spin-out IPO vehicle. I imagine there will be more because that's our stated strategy. There is the potential in the Athabasca where properties are heavily sought after for strategic partnerships and for further disposals. And that is something that we are looking at right now, as we've said. And we're also looking at making major discoveries on the retained properties because, like most of our project areas, we would like to retain a proportion of the projects that we bring on board. When the market revs up in uranium properly, as it did in 2006-07, the level of returns for uranium companies will be dramatic. And for the shareholders holding the stock and buying stock at the lower price levels that we see today, the potential for financial gain is considerable. We want to be a part of that story, both with our internal projects and also with significant strategic stakes in external investments. Moving on to those investments, I just want to quickly run you through the process. First Class Metals listed in London. We have 27.91% at the moment. We started the value build by acquiring in early 21 a portfolio of Schreiber Hemlo properties. Later in 21, in September, we vended out that package into First Class Metals, who were doing something similar to us by securing ground in that part of the world. The package together was compelling, and it's led to the listing in London of First Class in late July. And of course, they are targeting major metal discoveries. And we are supporting them in that and looking forward to the capital growth that that will deliver for our very significant strategic holding. We're on a lock-in for 12 months from listing to July 23. And then we have a 12-month orderly market thereafter. To protect the shareholders coming into the IPO and buying on market. Now, let me tell you, we have no ambition to be selling First Class Metals, so we're absolutely fine with that. But from our original investment, which was circa £200,000, our value on the market today is circa £2.7 million. It just shows if you bring the right assets together, you can do so intelligently. The power of knowledge and a quality technical team is amazing and can deliver considerable value. We expect the same to happen for First Development Resources, where we have a 62.12% position. The trick in natural resources is to fight against the negativity in the market. is to find those unique opportunities where people are not interested, and it may carry on that disinterest for some time, to build that package together, to plow in dramatic amounts of time, energy, and in fairness, money into building the technical database behind a project package, to show it has merit, to leave everyone behind who thought, well, just another exploration license or license package, to show what it might be. Now, for First Development Resources, we are targeting in one of our project areas, the Wallal project, which holds magnetic bullseyes. Anyone familiar with Greatland Gold knows that's where Javieron came from. So our value build was the acquisition of First Development Resources and URE Metals, which were two vehicles holding projects in Western Australia and the Northern Territory. We had to work to secure the license grants because a number of these licenses were in application stage, and we did that. And when we did that, we had the baseline valuation for the company. We've undertaken early exploration to define targets for drilling and further exploration. That work, summarized in 2 short bullet points, has been extensive and led by Tristan Potas, the CEO of that vehicle. It is a unique, significant, and a great opportunity for our company and for the shareholders in there, raising 1.125 million at pre-IPO. And we're looking forward to that vehicle coming to market soon. These opportunities, much as with Greatland back in 2015-16, required investors who understood the risk-reward situation in this type of opportunity, who are willing to back a proposition with a quality management team who've proven their worth over an extended period of time with real work in the field. Not to mention the fact that in Tristan's case, he spent a considerable amount of time recently in Australia going around and about the projects and spending time on the heritage survey over the Wallal project to prepare for drilling. Quite a level of commitment. Of course, we're ultimately looking forward to that listing. We're looking forward to the discoveries that we hope will come through that listing and the work that will be undertaken. We think there's a number of great shots. And if we're right, then the capital growth will be considerable. Golden Metal Resources, another package that we brought together in 2021, focused on Nevada, USA. At the moment, the US is focused with all the geopolitical challenges and difficulties around the world. They're focused on the security of their metal supply. And there are a number of critical minerals that they're looking to develop their own sources for. One of them, tungsten, in that critical minerals list, is at the heart of the major project, Golden Metal Resources. There is considerable interest in the commodities that the USA needs for its ongoing operational life as a country. And we have the largest known undeveloped tungsten resource in the United States within this package. It's quite unique. We started the process of building the vehicle in 2021 by acquiring the vehicles that held a number of different, well, the pilot mounted project, a number of vehicles holding the project. We also acquired 3 other opportunities, Garfield and Stonewall, which were acquired from a UK listed company as Sunrise Resources. And we also secured an option over Golconda, which is targeting very large, potentially large, I should say, Carlin type gold deposits with a very exciting exploration story that's building. We had to restructure. This isn't, you know, flash cars and beaches, I'm afraid. It's about hard work. And the restructure of that particular vehicle took an extended period of time. The pilot mounted project was held through an Australian into a US holding structure. We have removed the Australian holding structure. So now the Nevada US companies are owned directly by Golden Metal Resources PLC in the UK. That work is done. I apologize, it took us longer than anticipated. Sometimes this happens, but we spent the time well. The company is led by Oliver Friesen, a Canadian geologist with enthusiasm, technical capability and know-how that I think You probably know, if you've been watching some of the videos, that he's been providing on each of the projects in this package. We've looked at Pilot Mountain, our big tungsten opportunity, also has copper, silver, zinc. And we've looked at the historic work, we've looked at the potential, the geology, and all the areas surrounding that project, and what we need to do to take it forward. We think it has considerable potential. We think it has considerable scalability. That will only be proven by exploration work, and there's been plenty of time going into preparing for that on listing. We've undertaken an induced polarization survey. We've undertaken exploration across the 3 other projects in the business. We have an ethos with regard to our vehicles, that when they come to market, they will not be stagnant. We all know that, don't we? IPOs can be a little bit dull when they come to market, not in the case of the vehicles that we are managing in the slightest. We've undertaken that full PLC vehicle preparation. That's a living nightmare for most people involved. It's a very detailed and complex process, and it has, again, taken us some time. But we've done it, and this vehicle is now moving into its IPO financing stage and then onto market. The listing will give us the considerable opportunity to push this vehicle forward at some pace. We are in an area with the US and with tungsten as a critical mineral where there is a significant interest in from the US government in providing assistance to projects that can supply these critical minerals. And we're developing relationships and doing work around the concept of financial grants going into this project package. It is not just a pipe dream, it is reality. We're doing work on that. There is potential for commercial partnerships, quite considerable potential, and we're also doing work on that. The nature of the markets today is that unless you have something definitive, you don't announce. Very simple. There's only so much you can push the speculation, as it were, in an announcement. And really, it has to come down to fundamentals. Much of this work stays in the background, but please rest assured we are doing it. We're targeting major discoveries at Golden Metal, both in terms of the expansion potential of Pilot Mountain, also in terms of the Goldcon, the gold property. I would certainly urge those who are interested in gold to look at that story on the Golden Metal website. And ultimately for Powermetal, it's about discoveries, because if we make discoveries, we have a significant growth in the value of our investment. Again, as with all of these IPOs, we'll be locked in for 12 months post-listing, hard lock-in. We can't sell anything, and we'll be locked in for under an orderly market arrangement for 12 months thereafter. Kavango Resources. There's a story. I think for some time over this year, Kavango were the subject of some criticism and cynicism. And then the CEO, who was right at the heart of that criticism and cynicism in terms of market commentary, went out and raised £3.5 million. A quite staggering amount of money, probably the highest I've ever seen in the junior resource space to take that project package forward. I suspect he was able to do that in part because the Kalahari Copper Belt interests are of dramatic interest to investors around the world. Cobre Resources listed in the on the Australian Stock Exchange on a interesting exploration find in the Kalahari Copper Belt, went from 2 cents to 73 cents in the matter of weeks. It was a dramatic revaluation. Now they've pulled back since then, but they're starting to warm up again. The Kalahari Copper Belt for investors has been very, very positive over the years. We started our relationship with this project and this company, Kavango, by helping with restructure refinancing back in 2020. Sat in my front room with a tuna sandwich on one side and a company that needed to really jumpstart itself in the market. We helped to refinance the business back then. We did a deal that ultimately led to a joint venture called Kanye Resources, where we had a 50-50 interest in the Ditau and Kalahari Copper Belt interests held by Kavango. We did exploration work with Kavango at the Kanye Resources joint venture, and we took the package forward with Kavango to a point where we felt it was at the value inflection stage, where with additional work, with confidence in the joint venture and in the Kavango business, there was a possibility of considerable valuation uplift. And very recently, we announced in July that we were looking to convert the joint venture to an investment in Kavango. So we sold our 50% back to Kavango, conditional upon them publishing a prospectus, which one would hope is imminent, because they've just raised a considerable amount of money, and that money as well will go into that prospectus document. By converting from the JV into a financial investment, we expose ourselves to Kavango being a success story, and we think they will be a dramatic success story. Otherwise, why would we hold the investment? We're looking for major discoveries across their portfolio, and as a listed company, we will have a very significant exposure to those discoveries through holding a significant amount of their stock, of warrants, a net smelter return royalty on the Kanye package. So we're looking forward to developments at Kavango, and we wish them well, and we think it should be an exciting story, particularly now they're fully charged with finance so they can push ahead at some pace. New Ballarat Gold Corporation, focused on the Victoria Goldfields in Australia, again during lockdown with a tuna sandwich. We built the footprint, or we started to build the footprint by securing license applications in the Victoria Goldfields of Australia in a 49.9% joint venture interest with our the other half, Red Rock Resources, 50.1%. As we built the footprint, we built the team, and we built the office, and we built an exploration plan, providing the core value at the heart of that proposition. We focused on identifying key exploration opportunities across the package. We've spent a considerable amount of time and a fair amount of money over the last 2.5 years, looking at this dramatic land package of over 2,000 square kilometers of ground, over 19 licensed grants and applications. We've identified 2 former high-grade producing gold mines that were producing hundreds of thousands of ounces, 10 to 15 grams a ton, that have the capability of being brought back online, subject to further exploration to delineate the remaining gold endowment. And at the same time as doing that, we've been building this highly capable local technical team, and we now have a core half a dozen team members there doing that work on the ground. It's live, it's active. We have a weekly technical meeting with them, and that work is beginning to stack up, and you will start to see more of that in the not too distant future, I'm absolutely certain. We have been building the PLC quietly in the background. It needs to accelerate. I accept a criticism that this has not moved forward as fast as it should, and there are certain reasons for that, but I'm absolutely determined that it will. We've seen over the years with ECR Minerals, the progress that can be achieved by building a business focused on Victoria Goldfields. And they were able to secure quite a considerable market capitalization focused around a number of licenses. We have a very large land position. We have a dramatic amount of targets and some rather large former high-grade producing mines within the territory. If it was its own listed company, it would do very, very well. And that's what we need to push on with, because by listing and raising independent capital, we can increase our chance of discoveries. We have production potential with local processing plants again nearby, and the prospect as a listed company with good news flow of significant capital growth. Finally, uranium energy exploration. Our first move into an investment in a listed company focused on uranium. We acquired some uranium properties, as I mentioned before, back from September 2021 through to pretty much the present date. We undertook advanced technical review across all of them and exploration planning. And then in one case, Reitenbach, we disposed of that vehicle or that property into Tethers Financial PLC, which was a former listed company and is looking to go back on the market. We're undertaking all of the work that's required for the PLC preparation for listing. We've undertaken a pre-IPO round to provide working capital for our listing plans. And the aim will be by listing Reichenbach within this vehicle, which will be called Uranium Energy Exploration, that we will expose our company in one way to dramatic discovery potential and the possibility of capital growth. There will be more vehicles in the future, I'm sure, focused on uranium on the London markets. At the moment, there are very few, and there are almost no small cap uranium markets, uranium companies in the London markets. So we're looking forward to seeing what happens with uranium energy exploration whilst we continue our work across our business. We're an open book, I'm afraid. We release lots of announcements with developments in our business. I'm told on occasions people don't even bother to open certain announcements because they're not worried about our company, or perhaps there's quite a few. You have to work hard as a power metal investor. And that work, as I've seen from my experience over the years, generally translates into real value in the market capitalization of a company. The market doesn't deliver very often for lazy companies, and we're not a lazy company. We now we'll move into a Q&A section. I know that's the bit you've all been waiting for, and we've had a number of questions sent in advance. We have Oliver Friesen, CEO of Golden Metal Resources, and Tristan Potas, CEO of First Development Resources, here to answer your questions, and they will be available for the rest of this session. If you want to ask a question online, at the bottom of the page here, you'll see the Q&A. Just click on there and it's pretty straightforward. If you want to send a message through onto any of the Telegram groups, or if you want to ping an email to info@powermetalresources.com, we do have people picking things up and they can ferry the questions over. So, starting off, let's go for the big one. I am the compare tonight on the questions. I do think I look slightly better looking than Mark Fairbairn at Stockbox, in fairness. But could you or Oliver explain the term superconductor in relation to Molopo target? So I'll hand over to Oliver on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me all right there, Paul? Yeah, great question. So the term superconductor, the way that it's determined effectively is when you're doing moving loop EM work, there's a scale from low conductance to extremely high conductance. And it's a pretty simple scale. And as you obviously increase in conductance, it sort of is classified within different groups. So as you guessed, the top of the scale is what's called a superconductor. So the reading that we got from the machine, the conductance reading for that particular target, that conductor at 114, fell within the highest bracket, which is termed a superconductor. So within that same graph, what you'll see on the right side is various things that can create that level of conductance. So for instance, a superconductor, one of the options would be massive sulfides. Now, there are other things that can create that conductance, but that is one that matches up with that specific. It's the actual unit is a Siemens. So it's the top of the chart. It's superconductor, and one of the possibilities would be massive sulfides. So obviously, we're looking forward to drilling that target next.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have another question related to Molopo. It was announced today that DDH1-6B2 drilled to 300.2 meters, as this hole was designed to test for the potential up-dip, shallower nickel mineralized pyroxenites. Why was a deeper than planned depth of 250 meters drilled?
Yeah, I'll grab that one as well. So the way that we plan these holes, and obviously as we're collecting more data, the model becomes more and more refined. But the big thing that we've done with this program is called oriented core, which means that we actually know the orientation of the core as it comes out of the ground, so we can determine the actual dip of different measurements within that core. So it's new data that we haven't acquired or that wasn't acquired by the previous company back in 2020, 2021. So what we can do with that data is as it comes out of the ground, we can get real-time measurements of different core angles. So in particular, we're looking for pyroxenites, which is the geological unit that can host host nickel sulfides within the Malapo Farms complex. So the way that this is structured is we have pyroxenites interbedded with serpentinites. And with this new oriented core, we can actually get live angles of that bedding. So when in the previous hole that went down to 650, we were getting live measurements from the ground. And what we do is we then essentially extrapolate those core angles to the next holes as we try to drill out the system. So in 16B2, for instance, based on the core angles that we'd seen from the pyroxenites to serpentinites, we projected essentially where we would find that same horizon about 600 meters away. But obviously, if you're using trigonometry and the degree changes 1 or 2 or 3 degrees, that can sort of increase or decrease the depth at which you hit that layer. So it was just extended because effectively we were looking to make sure we captured the extension of what we were looking for in those pyroxenites.
Okay, great. So we have a question around the timing of news flow. What is the anticipated time frame around the news flow with Malapo Farms' current drilling campaign? i.e., what information can we expect to hear within what time frames? Now, that's a bit of a tricky one to answer, really, because they get really upset with any companies that give too much information about specifics. And it's a fluid program at Malapo. It's one where we didn't start out anticipating to drill the second hole at the time that we did, but ultimately translated into that. We were thinking about all sorts of different alternatives when we got the data on T114, and that was obvious that we had to move there as a priority to get on with that. So I think we can, you can safely assume that we will update the market with operational news flow, as you saw today, which is just to let you know what's going on. It's quite active at the moment, and there are lots of different things happening, but we'll make sure you can see what's going on. We will not be flirtatious with the market, forgive me. I know that's a policy that's often used. We're just cracking on with the job. Big discoveries are not made by being flirtatious. Big ramps in the share price might be. We're focused on doing this job properly, getting the assay results. And of course, we will seek as much as we can to give you real feedback about what we're seeing and what we're doing on the ground. It's a wonderful world with this type of program when you're running a company and involved with these projects, because every day could deliver another transformational event. And it's the same as an investor. I know there's a degree of uncertainty as investors because you don't see inside the company. If you saw inside the company and what we were doing, you'd have a lot more confidence, in fairness, than you would have as an external investor, because there is a degree of sanitization when it comes to public communications. We can't quite display the passion. Hopefully you see it through the work ethic and the workflow and the RNS. But if you were inside this company, seeing what we're doing and how we go about it, I think you would have a dramatic amount of increased confidence in what we're looking to achieve. Anyway, enough of me going down that route. I have, sorry, there are some funny questions that have come in. Please add them on. So I'll have to do this one. You said in an answer to me some weeks ago that you were more enthused by Malapo Farms than you were about T3 at Metal Tiger. Is that still the case? I understand you have to be careful with the answer. Well, enthusiasm comes sometimes with percentages, and the recent move to where we had the regulatory approvals in Botswana to increase our stake in Kalahari Key was a great thing for us. Certainly gives us a lot of additional energy when you have a bigger exposure. The fact that we're running the programs, Oliver is driving that work at the moment tremendously well. The fact that you're able to send team members out to site and to work with the team in Botswana is fabulous. To be so close and over the program, to see the opportunity in the background, to see the things that as investors you don't necessarily get to see at first. It's a fantastic thing. So size and scale is dramatic. The opportunity is tremendous. We're really pleased with progress, and we are cognizant that this could be quite a dramatic company changer, transformational in terms of value and direction. So yeah, I would say I'm very excited about it. And I would say I'm probably more so than I was back in 2016. It's a lot of hard work at the moment. We're running this type of project alongside a full-on PLC. But I can tell you we're very enthused with what we're doing. Just back, I'm going to skip over to first development resources with this question, because Tristan's just probably sat there quietly and snoozing away. Could you tell us from the first development resources portfolio, in simple terms, what the similarities are between the Wallal Eastern Anomaly and the other magnetic bullseyes to the Havieron discovery by Greatland Gold? You've referenced it within announcements, and what could you articulate what those similarities are?
Just one sec. There we go. Can you hear me all right, Paul? Okay, great. Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thanks to everyone for dialing in. And yeah, it's a good question. Look, there's no doubt that in our communication, we have referenced the fact that the geophysical anomalies which we've identified at Wallal do bear a striking resemblance to those seen at Havieron. But I want to stress, as I always say at this point, it is a geophysical similarity. The reading, the nanoteslas, I think it was 80 at Havieron and 100 for the Eastern Anomaly. So basically, in terms of the scale and I guess the resonance of the geophysical anomaly, there are similarities. And as we've said on many occasions, it's now a question of sticking a drill into these things to basically see what we've got. And look, we know that the mineralization at Havieron does provide a great analog for us to work to, and we know that the gold and copper mineralization at Havieron is basically consists of a breccia, a vein, and massive sulfide replacement mineralization. So we're hopeful that kind of mineralogy will be present at Wallal, but really we now need to drill it. As we've also made very clear, since we got the heritage clearance survey completed at Wallal 2 weeks ago, we immediately deployed a team to site to prepare the access, to clear the access and the pad to allow a drill to roll onto site immediately so we can get drilling immediately post-listing. So look, there are similarities, but we need to drill it to see what we've got.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just looking down the questions. Can you explain what you saw at Celta? And he says, what is pegmatite? But perhaps could you give a bit of an overview as to what you saw during the site visits, what you're looking for from a geological perspective, what mineralization it might carry, that kind of thing?
Yes, certainly. So I think the best thing that we took from the site visits is the fact that, unlike Wallal, which is undercover, Celta, there is a huge amount of outcropping geology. So you can actually get on the ground and get up close to the rock and visually, get a sense as to what its composition could be, albeit visually. It's the geochem analysis which gives you the detail. So the fact that we're able to get out on the ground and see the actual geology, see any structure which comes through it. But really, the targets have been identified using all historical data, right? So it's a compilation of what we've been able to get from the public domain. And by pulling all that together, we've been able to identify rocks which in that part of the world, are known to host uranium or rare earth elements. We've got historical geochem analysis, stream sediment samples, which tells us there is a source of rare earth somewhere on the property. And now it's a question of going out and doing the systematic exploration to basically refine those targets and really hone in on what could be hopefully a great discovery. But yeah, again, like Wallal, like Braeside West, like Ripon Hills, we're in a great jurisdiction with great neighbours nearby who've had some great success. So by being able to trawl through the publicly available information about Arafura Resources, Nolan's Bore, for example, and for those that don't follow CELTA or FDR, Nolan's Bore is the highest grade neodymium, praseodymium, easy for me to say, deposit in Australia. The geology which underpins CELTA is postulated to be compositionally similar to that at CELTA. So, it's when you're in exploration, it's very difficult, right? Exploration is not easy, but if you've got touch points of success nearby, it certainly doesn't guarantee that you're going to automatically find something, but it gives you a great signpost and a great analog to vector in on to basically improve your chances of hopefully making the discovery.
Okay, and after post-listing, what's going to happen in the business? Just assume, I know there's we got to say potential all the time, but yeah, just assume the listing has happened. What kind of work is going to be done? What's the news flow going to be, do you anticipate?
Yeah, so everything we've done over the past several months has been geared towards hitting the ground running immediately, not post-listing, on listing. So, when you're drilling, I guess, look, any target, you don't know what you're going to find. So you need to make sure that people remain interested in what you're doing and ensuring there's a steady flow of information coming to the market to basically keep people informed and giving people something to aim for from an investor's perspective. So day one, we'll be drilling at Wallal. That's happening. So once that drill starts turning, we know, based on the geophysical interpretation that we've done and all the desktop studies, we know that the Proterozoic basement rocks, based on the interpretation, are between 700 and 800 meters. I'm going to keep it quite broad because it's geophysics. So that, we can speculate that we may be able to get X number of meters per day, and that will only be determined once we do get drilling, but we will be drilling, and therefore investors will know there will be tangible news flow coming out of Wallal. Also at the same time, with the FDR team and our in-country team being led by our exploration manager, Paul Frawley, we've been working up the initial phase of on-ground exploration at CELTA. As I mentioned earlier, that is systematic, targeted, geochemical not necessarily wide space, but over these targets to basically systematically test them to see what we've got. And we want to deploy a team immediately. So while we're drilling at Wallal, we're working up CELTA to basically see what we've got. And at the same time, in the background, we also have a great opportunity at Ripon Hills and Braeside West. Now, I think it was last week, we released a video which summarized the desktop review at Braeside. And because we obviously talk about Wallal for obvious reasons, and we're excited about CELTA because of the number of potential targets we've got there, don't think that Braeside West and Ripon Hills are just an afterthought. There is some great geology outcropping again, great jurisdiction in an area historically, well known for manganese, but pretty much next door to a really good bit of work done by Rumble Resources, where they defined this regional scale porphyry VMS system, 60 kilometers in strike, 8 kilometers in width, with 45 high priority gold and base metal targets in there. So we want to basically get on the ground and work up that project to really, pick targets and stick a drill in them. That's what we want to do, Paul.
And if you can't back that, then there's something wrong with you as an investor.
Thanks
this is what we get every day. I can tell you this in the office, and this level of enthusiasm and commitment is absolutely fantastic. Just switching on for a second to the same question for Gold and Metal Resources. Just assuming it's all listed, Oliver, and we're getting on with things. Are you going to sit there for 3 months, go on holiday, maybe you watch a bit of, daytime TV? What's going to happen in the business, assuming the listing?
Yeah, good question as well. And as Tristan mentioned, what we've been doing here at Golden Metal echoes what they've been doing at First Development, which is, we're looking to hit the ground running. And in fact, if you've been following the news flow, we've already started some of that work. And that includes a robust geochemical survey at our Garfield project. And I think more importantly, a high resolution IP survey has been done at our flagship Pilot Mountain project. So the great thing about having having done that work already is those results will be available to us after the listing. I think what I'll focus on the IP work, and the reason for that is, I mean, obviously Pilot Mountain, the existing in-ground resource is incredibly strategic, and I think provides a really good baseline valuation for gold and metal resources. But ultimately, you know, we're explorationists. We want to make discoveries, and that's what gets me excited and me out of bed. So at Pilot Mountain, you know, we have 4 satellite deposits, all of which host tungsten, silver, copper, and zinc mineralization. And the really exciting part about that is they're all essentially satellite deposits. They're about 1.5 kilometers from one another. And in between them is what you have is post-mineral sedimentary cover. As a geologist, when you see 4 almost identical deposits that are about 1.5 kilometers away, that's where there's cover in between. Ultimately, you start thinking about what is in between those 4 deposits, and all the geologists and technical people that have worked on this project and written reports have said focus in on that central area. And the way to do that is, and especially when there's cover, is to do geophysics. And the really exciting part is that an IP survey was done by the historical operator over the desert scheelite deposit, which hosts about 90% of the in-ground resource right now. And what that survey was doing was essentially trying to model or look for the extension of that deposit towards the east, where the mineralization was getting stronger. And the great thing about doing geophysics over an existing resource is you know exactly what geophysical signature you're looking for. So in this case, we know that we're looking for chargeability high, resistivity low. And the great thing about that survey was that it showed an extension of the desert scheelite about 500 meters towards the southeast, which has not been drilled. But more importantly, as we look more broadly at the project, we're going to have IP results after the listing of the other parts of the property, the central part of the property, as well as Good Hope to the northeast. And we're looking for that chargeability high, resistivity low. So I think there's going to be a lot of really exciting, high priority blue sky exploration targets right out of the gate, which, as you can tell, gets me quite excited. On top of that, Pilot Mountain, I mean, like as I mentioned, the in-ground resource is incredibly strategic. The macro picture surrounding strategic metals keeps on getting better every day. As Paul mentioned, there's conversations ongoing, looking to secure funding with the U.S. government. We're looking at discussing with offtake partners. So it's a super strategic project. It could solve a lot of problems for the U.S. So we're going to have a 2-pronged approach. We're looking to obviously expand the size and grade of the existing in-ground resource. But what we have right now is already it's a home run. So we're looking to advance those discussions, and obviously a lot of those things we can't actually materialize until after we list. That's just Pilot Mountain. As mentioned, Garfield, we have about 700 soil samples, which we'll have results for after the listing. And then Golconda Summit is another kind of home run property that is kind of near and dear to my heart. I actually used to live in Nevada and work for Barrick Gold, about 50 kilometers away from Golconda Summit. That was at Cortez Hills, where I was part of a 10 million ounce gold discovery within Carlin type rocks. So it's a geological environment I understand and know well. And so here at Golconda Summit, we have really, really high grade gold in our upper plate rocks. I think it's about 20 grams per ton over 7 meters within trenches. But Carlin type gold is not found within upper plate rocks. It's found within your lower plate strata. What happens is vertical faults can remobilize the gold in the fluids and deposit it within the upper plate rocks. So we're going to be the first company to ever drill into the lower plate rocks, looking to make obviously a sizable Carlin type discovery. So a lot of work is going to be ongoing at Golconda Summit. We're in the process of finalizing drill targets right now. We were able to secure about a 500 soil sample data set, which essentially jumps us up in the line about 2 months, 2-3 months, and moves us closer to that drill ready stage. So lots of news flow is going to be happening across at least 3 of our assets, and as you can tell, all of them have a very compelling story. So it's going to be full on. There's going to be lots of news flow, just as you expect here with Power, and a lot of that's going to be really material, technical, and corporate developments that are happening across the business.
Okay, great. Staying with North America. Sorry, Oliver, it's you again. In terms of the uranium portfolio, What is it about Reitenbach that got your interest in the first place? And from the work that you've done on the property in since its acquisition or its staking, what have you learned, and what would be the next steps post listing of the new vehicle?
Yeah, so with Reitenbach, it's a bit of an interesting story because it's a property that has been explored intermittently. But the difficult thing about Reitenbach is I believe it's about 97 to 98% covered. And sometimes in Saskatchewan, you can sort of get very flat muskeg country. So it makes traditional boot and hammer exploration quite difficult. With that being said, there's the government of Saskatchewan did a really good job in doing systematic lake sediment sampling across the entire province. So what we have is, I think it's a database of about 20,000 individual samples where they sample the lake sediment. And what that can tell you is what the mineralization is like around that lake, even if you can't see it because of moss cover or the lake. So the thing that gets me really excited about Reitenbach is the geochemical sampling that's been done there is some of the highest in the province. I think 1 or 2 of the samples are actually in the top 10 in the entire province. So when you see, 2, 3, 500 parts per million uranium in lake, that's an incredibly high result. And you need to figure out where that uranium is coming from. It's not coming from very far. And on top of that, as I mentioned, there's a lot of cover on that property. But if you look at one of the Reitenbach maps, there's been some boulder sampling that's been done. And the reason that boulder sampling is really important in Saskatchewan is that the whole of northern Saskatchewan has been quite heavily glaciated. And what will happen is that during that glaciation period, the glaciers will pluck and pull different parts of the bedrock up, and then those boulders are deposited all around Saskatchewan. And because of the ice flow direction, you know where those boulders likely came from. And what's really interesting is you have those incredibly high-grade lake sediment results, but to corroborate that, you have multiple boulders across the property in the northeast, southwest orientation. If you see the map, you'll see they're all oriented because of that glacier field. But there's some really high-grade uranium in boulder as well there. So, I mean, to see that kind of smoke, there's fire somewhere. And to come in there and be the first property, or to be part of, hopefully, seeing this property advance, additional geophysics, boot and hammer prospecting. I mean, I think it's very close to being drill ready. And the analog there, and I've read all the historical reports on this property. There's about 4 of them that mention the analog to the Rossine uranium mine. Now, I encourage you to look that one up because it's a very important uranium mine globally. So when you have 4 or 5, different operators talking about the comparisons between a very, very globally important mine, you have all that smoke, and essentially no one's gone in there and done some systematic drilling. So it's obviously a really exciting opportunity at Reitenbach.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So I'll just quickly run through these other questions that are on here. Try and not to say the wrong thing. I've invested in a small fortune in your company and really enjoying the ride. But what do you do outside of work to let your hair down? You don't want to know. But thank you for the concern. We do actually work quite a bit, but you know what? If we do this job well, then I think we'll make a lot of people's lives very different, and that's what it's all about. And because everyone in Power Metal is either a shareholder or has options, warrants, and those options, generally speaking, are a considerable premium to the current share price. And for many of the options, the share price has to do 5 pence or more for 10 VWAP days before they can be exercised. So you can imagine if we're successful, which I fully intend we will be, by the way, then the team will do very well. And perhaps we could all hire a beach hut together and drink sangrias and that kind of thing. Anyway, what's the anticipated time frame? Oh, here we go. So I think we've answered that one already. No, what is the anticipated time frame around the news flow with Malopal Farm's current drilling campaign? Well, I do hope it goes on for an awful long time, in fairness. many, 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 many months, and we keep drilling and keep drilling and keep drilling, because that, of course, will be a very favorable outcome. No doubt the drilling will likely be in batches. We've got a 2,600 meter program underway right now. It will be a few months of that program. It started in September and it will continue for some time. We're doing batch dispatch, as it were, so processing of samples from the drill program and sending off to the assay labs. Don't think we'll face quite the delays that we had in the past with regard to COVID disruptions and that kind of thing. So hopefully it will be quite efficient, and we will feed out results to market and what our interpretation is all the way through wherever we can. But we will not try and ramp you up, as it were, just for the sake of it. I've got a business with 14 projects that's spinning out multiple different vehicles. If I goad the market and get everyone going and then we don't deliver because I just wanted to stimulate the share price, there will be a lack of confidence in me. And the last thing I want is for people to be lacking in confidence in this business. You look at it and you think, no, seriously, they can't really be going for it as they are. Well, yes, we are, and we're being serious about it. Thanks for coming on Telegram the other day. I asked you about the possibility of keeping Tati in-house and developing it as a POW income producing asset. I'd like to re-ask the same question again for the benefit of everyone, but also considering today's RNS. You know, we're in a bit of a wow stage for us at the moment with regard to this. 47 grams a ton was a phenomenal result. We've got 6 of the 9 holes still to come back. We've obviously drilled in the right place. We're looking to assess the full extent of the mineralization. The options are open. Now, most of these projects don't have, processing facilities nearby. They don't have the kind of advantages that this project does. But I think we just need a little bit of time to really get a feel for what's there. I would expect the logical step will be to undertake additional drilling, but at the moment we just focus on processing the results that are coming in and getting those out to market, and we'll start to articulate a bit more fully. There are so many options with that project. Someone's just noted Tiger. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Can you visually have an idea of what the cores show with regard to the nickel? I won't even answer that question, to be honest, at the moment. That would be a little dangerous. Following the great gold grades reported from the Tati project, so what would you or the business like to happen next? Well, just referring to the previous response, we're just going to see where we go with that. But we're very, very, very excited about Tati. It's such a great thing when you get that kind of result in, as we announced today. Any update on Alamo and Silver Peak, the forgotten kids in the portfolio? Well, Alamo, we covered in the quarterly report, specifically with regard to, we're not going ahead with the projects as originally constructed. We have some ideas, we have some initiatives, and we're in contact with our partners out there to see what we can do. But we've got to be careful at the moment. We have phenomenal projects and interests in our business where much more advanced, much greater potential in respect of the, if you compare it to, very early stage exploration. We've got other projects like Silver Peak where we only have a 30% position in the project at the moment, but there is a considerable opportunity there. We got bonanza grade silver. The market really loved the results from exploration that was undertaken, and we need to make sure we've got time to push the like of Silver Peak forward in the right way. So Alamo, we put a stop on that effectively and said, no, we're not going ahead as previously the deal suggested, and we'll see what happens from that. The good thing with the portfolio approach is that you have many different opportunities to create value in this type of business, and we never like to say no to anything, as it were. But we've got to grow up as a business and mature and focus ourselves a little more. Are you going to take on any further projects in Power Metal? The reality is we walk away from almost everything that comes in right now. We have so much on. so much work being undertaken. And quite frankly, who cares in terms of, if we take on more project opportunities? I don't see people jumping up and down saying, oh my Lord, thank goodness that Power has 45 projects instead of 44. It's just not, if we took something on, it would be uranium, or it would have to be so dramatic that it's obvious we have to do it. And quite frankly, based on a number of different metrics, then we haven't yet come across something that will get over the line in terms of mega projects. Although for uranium, we remain very proactive in a number of parts of the world, and we would anticipate that we build our uranium side to the business. Could you talk a little about the next steps at Moolopa once this drilling is concluded? Well, if one assumes that we do this program and then we pause, which would be a sensible step, it might not happen. It might be a different approach. Then we'd, of course, bring all the results together as quickly as possible and undertake all the technical review that was necessary. Plan next steps, liaise with third parties who've expressed an interest in the project to see to what extent that interest would like to continue or expand or develop. And then really move the project forward on all levels. It's a bit difficult to predict at the moment because we're still only, what are we, 650 plus, 250, 300, 950 into a program that was originally slated for 2,600 meters and may well go above that. So still early days. Enthusiasm hasn't changed, by the way, because I know people look for signs. We're absolutely thrilled that we're doing this work, and we're looking forward to the outcome of all the program. Alongside working technically on what we've already got in terms of core and making sure that that's tested and that we come out with accurate technical information along the way. Is Golden Metal and FDR close to IPO and listing? Nothing is certain in our world, by the way. That's why we have to keep using the word planned or potential. But the answer to that would be yes, if I was being honest. So we've put that within recent announcements to say we're looking to close ASAP in terms of those IPOs. You might think it's a brave thing to do in the current market conditions. We certainly have been conscious of that and not trying to be too crazy with the timing of this. People talk about, well, if XYZ company can list on X market, why are you not listing? Well, your listing, the speed of your listing, the terms around your listing, what's acceptable, depends on the exchange that you're going on. And each exchange is different. And in the UK, there have been 3 main exchange routes: the standard segment of the main London Stock Exchange, the alternative investment market, and the Aquis Exchange. And they all have positives, they all have elements of negativity, and you really have to find the right fit. For a company, it's really important. We're quite keen in our business to have listed vehicles on the right markets with the right level of liquidity and the right investor engagement and enthusiasm. And each business has different demands. So it has not been possible, to be quite frank, to just snap our fingers and to list vehicles exactly when we wanted to. 3 months ago, 6 months ago. It has not been what someone called the other day. Was it absolute rubbish that the vehicles couldn't, weren't prepared and ready to list in the summertime? Had we have brought, if we're a business that wants to bring on 12, 15 companies, or 6 or 26, then we have to make sure that our early listings are successful for our investors in POW and for the investors that come into the vehicles that we're creating at pre-IPO or IPO stage, and for the people buying on the market. There has to be success. We would be grossly negligent, highly foolish, and probably not worth being paid if we brought our vehicles carelessly onto market just to tick a box. And we would disappoint investors if they didn't perform well. So we've been very cautious and careful about that. And we haven't just said that because we're lazy. We haven't said that because the team are engaged in other activities in the business. We just work extremely hard to get multiple things done, and we will do these things as quickly as we can. So one quick question here: what does 2023 look like for the business, and how many more IPOs are planned? Well, 2020, you know what, I'm going to go Tristan. If again, in a perfect world, what are you targeting in 2023 in First Development Resources?
One sec. What are we targeting? Well, discoveries, Paul. There's no really anything else, not really anything else to say. We want to build the portfolio beyond what we've currently got, but before we do that, or at the same time, we want to look to maximize the value of the projects which we've been working on for the best part of over a year now. This isn't just a package of land that we've pulled together. There's been some excellent work which has gone into really understanding what potentially might be in the ground. So I've said it before, I'll say it again, all you want to do is just get after it. I think 2023 will be a great year for FDR.
Okay, so let me just postulate then, because I'm an optimistic devil, but this is my question. And I think it's important because I know a bit of the answer, but this has not been planned in the slightest, I can assure you. But you make a major discovery at Wallal, and with your options, you become extremely wealthy very quickly. That's the moment I tell you about your long-term notice contract, so you can't leave, by the way. But what have you got? What have you got with your experience in the way of contacts and connections outside the company that can help you in the event that you walk onto a major discovery? Because I know the story of Javieron. People can appreciate that. And I know what challenges it presents on a discovery. I know with T3, it's how much of a nightmare it can be. Everyone thinks you should be happy and jumping up and down, but it's organizationally, operationally a difficult thing. What's your contact and connection base in Australia to manage that kind of thing? How would you leverage it?
Guys, that's an interesting question. It's also quite a difficult question, and it's certainly one which I wasn't prepared for, Paul. Look, in terms of how you deal with the discovery, is that the
because if you go on to you're a business that's on market, and a typical, I'll make a figure up, a £10 million early stage exploration company. You slam into a major discovery, then if you look Greatland Gold with Javieron, with an interest of 30%, managed to go to over $1 billion, $1.2 billion market cap. So that meant, in theory, the gross value of the project was $4 billion. You've gone from being a junior stage exploration manager into the manager of a project with dramatic value, right? So you're going to need some help. Now, what experience do you have? What contacts do you have? What can you actually leverage in Australia?
Yeah. Okay. Right. Got it.
You don't have to give names.
No, that's fine. Look, I think first of all, the mining industry is huge, right? But it's also exceptionally tight and well connected at the same time. In my career, I've had an opportunity to work with major mining companies, the junior companies. I've had some success. I've also experienced the downside when things don't always go according to plan. But all the way through that, I've always recognized relationships are the key to being able to push forward and take advice and be humble enough to be able to ask questions and know your capabilities. So I think the first thing that I would do is obviously look at the FDR board and recognize that we're a team that's been assembled to make a discovery, and beyond the point of discovery, then that's a very different proposition for FDR at this stage. I think because of the relationships that I've been able to build in Australia, in the UK, in the mining industry in general, the first thing you'd have to do is basically just take a minute, pause, not panic, keep grounded, and take advice as the best way to take these things forwards. Because ultimately, Paul, as a publicly listed company, as you know better than anybody, you are custodians for the potential wealth of your investors, and your sole focus and sole responsibility is to work in the interests of your shareholders. And so I think that would be the key thing, would be to consider what is the best outcome, take advice, take counsel from people who've been there, and just look for the best option, basically, Paul. It's a very difficult question because, as much as I'm enthusiastic and passionate about what we do, I also am very much grounded insofar as a deal's not done until it's done and a discovery is not there until it's made. So we've got a great opportunity to go after it in the short term, and how we then go forward, if we do hit into a discovery, is something which will be taken with great consideration and care.
Fantastic. Okay, that wasn't scripted in the slightest. And if anyone wants to ping a question through, we've got a little bit of time left, and we'll answer it live as we do with all the questions. There's a question here I'll answer. With your experience of trading in the junior exploration commodity space, are you seeing any signs that the difficult 20 months are coming to an end? Well, I've been investing since I was 18, which is quite a long time ago, 35 years. And I can tell you it's been absolutely nightmarish for 34 years, because the upside and the good side is only quite a small amount of the overall time. People in this market are coming back to buying. They're coming back to buying when they see big words in the titles of RNSs at 7 a.m. in the morning. When they see humongous or whatever, that's some words that people get away with. And that's great, but it's the worst possible thing. A couple of the big traders, investors I know, more than a couple, will never transact on a share between 8 and 8:30 in the morning in any direction, because that's the danger zone. But I'm noticing that there's been shares are going up and holding their price, which is quite good, and they're not completely collapsing down all the time, which is great. The junior resource market is one where you've got to be bored most of the time to make money. It surely has been boring. I mean, can you imagine releasing an announcement saying you've got 47 grams a ton in one of your samples in one of your projects of gold, and your share price goes up by 5.9%? I mean, how dull is that? What should it have gone up by? Well, it's the market, but it's just that phase at the moment. I think it's so boring and so dull across much of the time in the market, and the fear factor is so high. I think we're probably going to have a bit of a zipper, and it's going to do quite well. But at the moment, all we're focused on in this business is really getting on with the job and building the value. In terms of, let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, ESG. Someone's asked us about when we'll be getting ESG in place, environment, social governance policies, because that will open us up to a whole heap of additional investment from companies, institutions that can invest without those being in place. Well, they actually are in place, those initiatives across our business in many ways. We are bringing it together into a formal policy that we will announce for Power Metal. And when we do announce that, there will be quite an intake of breath, I think, because we're actually going to do something more than tick the box. We are going to make it clear that we are totally behind proper initiatives. At the end of the day, our game is big discoveries. Big discoveries come with massive obligations, because you are effectively in the building stage for bringing a mine together. If a mine goes in, there's huge employment opportunities, there's huge impact on economies. There's a lot of care that's needed with regard to protection of the community, of the environment, and so on. We are a serious business. So we've said in our quarterly report that our ESG initiative will be announced before quite soon. I can't remember the exact date, but it will be. And as I say, there will be a bit of an intake of breath. I know there's a lot of people out there asking if where they can get a copy of this book cheaply. It's probably the #1 read. I actually have a few copies of this because I bought them when they were 17 quid and not 350 quid. I think if anyone wants to write to the company, info@powermetalresources.com, and tell us what we should do to further push our business forward in a positive way, and gives us a bit of narrative and an explanation as to their idea and thoughts, then we'll pick the best 3. I actually have more than one. We'll pick the best 3 and we will send you a copy in the post if you give us your address. I think there's one question I just wanted to cover for Oliver, if that's okay. There is one here saying, can you only use the word bonanza within an RNS in certain circumstances? Well, I think you can use a lot of different words. I've seen quite a few recently, including giant. It is a term from the industry. It's not quite a technical term, but Oliver, in terms of bonanza, can you give us a bit of a steer on what it means from an industry perspective? Because it isn't just fluff; it is actually used and discussed.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned huge there, Paul. I think what someone should do is sit down and actually quantify what certain words mean in the industry, because no one's really gone and done it. I mean, for me, bonanza is anything that's greater than an ounce per ton. That's how I view it. It's if you look at as many news releases as I do in different historical reports, it's very rare to get assays that are greater than an ounce per ton. And that sort of in my experience, anything above an ounce per ton would be considered bonanza. But I agree, someone should maybe sit down and quantify what different words can be used to describe different things. But yeah, ounce per ton for me. In this case, we're almost approaching 2 ounces per ton for this particular assay. So certainly within the realm of bonanza.
Okay, so we've got to it's 2024, and probably should let you go. Thank you so much. The number of participants on has been brilliant, and there will be various other material to come out in the coming minutes. Days, weeks and months with regard to power, including the video that you saw at the start. Just a reminder, any useful suggestions, please send us an email, info@powermetalresources.com, with your idea about how we can further improve the business. Put a bit of meat on the bones, not 2-liners, if you don't mind, just and then we will use that information, those suggestions, and the best 3 we'll send books out to the Big Score. To confirm, I bought them for 17 quid. Well, I didn't. Hannah did. She's next to me. When they were relatively cheap, we probably cornered the market in the Big Score. And but we'd be delighted for your input and feedback. It's an exciting time for the company at the moment. You've seen members of the team. We're all different characters. We're all driven quite dramatically. The people that you haven't seen tonight, which I'm hoping soon we'll be able to do some intros on further Zoom meetings in the future, are also equally driven. And we are here to make you money, to build or to find major discoveries, to be the precursor to the building of big mines, the employment of people, and the building of prosperity. As one very nice gentleman said to me a few years ago, when he made a 10-bagger return on Metal Tiger, I think, and he paid for his deposit on his daughter's house and his daughter's wedding. And that's life-changing stuff, and that's what we want to achieve here. But we have to do it in the wrapper of a professional company. We have to do it with due regard for regulatory rules, all the legal requirements. We have to be respectful of market conditions, and we have to be respectful of the fact that our investors are risking their money with us, whether it's £10 or £110 or £1 million. It doesn't matter to us. We think about our shareholders. Which is why we spend such a high proportion of our money in business development and in the ground on exploration. If you have any questions or queries, you want any further assistance, please let us know. I apologize. A few people have been getting in touch recently. I haven't been the most responsive. We are up against it with work and all the news flow that's happening in the business, but I will get back to everyone. I do keep a log. My wife tells me I have to keep more lists, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I will get back in touch with everyone. So thank you again. We hope to do this more of these sessions in the future, and we appreciate your time. Have a very good rest of the evening. Thank you.